There was a story about the rabbi who showed up late for Yom Kippur. And they were shocked. How could you come late to Yom Kippur? I bet you have a really good excuse. I said, well, I was walking to shul and I saw this dog. And the dog was shivering. It was cold. And it was suffering. Then I go back to my house. I got a blanket, put the blanket on the dog. Then I led it to my house. And now the dog is warm. They said, all of that? And you come late for Yom Kippur for a dog? And he said, if we don't have compassion for animals, what are we doing here? Why are we wasting our time if we don't have compassion for dogs and for cats and all living things? That's what it's all about, my friends. And so my excuse wasn't quite as noble as what these wonderful people did. My excuse is I was at an interfaith event, and I say to you, if we can't use our tradition and our heritage to love other people of all traditions and to join in interfaith harmony and peace, then what are we doing here? Why are we wasting our time? And I'm glad to say also that we used our tradition and our faith to protect agricultural land and the environment. My friends, we need a spiritual transformation in the world today, because most religions think that this is a sideshow. You know, the animals and the environment, that's like 8th on the list behind doing all your prayers and paying money to the church or the synagogue and all these. This should be top of the list. If we don't transform religion so that we see ourselves as one family, living together, protecting creation and all its inhabitants, then we're not getting anywhere. You know, in the Torah, God is referred to as Yahweh. I guess I'm not supposed to say that. I can get struck by lightning or something. But according to the Torah, it's either Yahweh or the highway. It's very narrow. If you don't follow my rules, something bad's going to happen. Here at Va-Dor, we don't believe in that. And fortunately, a lot of modern Jews, Christians, Muslims, and others, they don't believe in that either. That should be cast aside. The highway? No, I'd rather look at it as a freeway in which people are free to think, free to share this tradition with people of all faiths and all religions, free to use our mind rationally. And it should be a throughway in which we are through with using religion to build up walls of separation, and we decide to use religion to build bridges of understanding and to engage in the most important challenge we have today, the protection of our planet. My friends, our goal should be unity without uniformity, community without conformity, and diversity without divisiveness. We should not have to agree on everything in order to get along. So we're here today with people of different faiths and different traditions, united by this common desire to make the world a better place. Now, about 2 weeks ago, people said, you're a dreamer. It's hopeless. You're never going to make it. It's a 5-2 vote against. Forget about it. Can I quote for you George Bernard Shaw? The reasonable person adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable person persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable person. Our tradition, we're a bunch of dreamers. We're very unreasonable when it comes to how the world is. We'd rather try to work on how it should be. And so this episode with the Ag Reserve does teach us that things can change and we can make a difference, and we couldn't become too cynical. I want to share with you another story from my dad. Okay, my dad talked about Fiorello LaGuardia. He was mayor of New York a long time ago, before they had all these social welfare programs. Somebody stole a loaf of bread, hauled into court. They said, "Why do you do that?" He said, "I have nothing to eat. I stole a loaf of bread because I had to feed my family. And LaGuardia said to all the people in the courtroom, he was, I think, the first Jewish mayor of New York, actually. He said to all the people in the courtroom, I find everyone in this courtroom, myself included, guilty. Guilty for living in a society where someone has to steal a loaf of bread to feed his family. And we see the same thing here. Our world is guilty. Did we do anything? Well, it's a lot of what we didn't do. We're all guilty for destroying this planet and leaving it worse than we found it for future generations. We must correct this sin and this guilt in order to pass on a better world. I also find this world guilty for having a united nations that fails to protect children from mental child abuse by allowing them in Gaza to be taught hate from day one, so that before their rational mind can even function, they are told that God wants them to kill in his name. And I'll take responsibility, it's here. But we've learned not to take it all literally. Some people have not. And those people were innocent children whose childhood was taken away, and now they're used as human weapons to kill and maim and destroy. I find the world community and the UN guilty for passing sanction after sanction after sanction against the only free democracy in the Middle East, and for ignoring hatred. Does that mean that everything that Israel does is correct? Absolutely not. I find the settlers very unsettling. However, the reason why there's conflict there is because one group of people named Hamas has in its charter that their goal is to destroy Israel and kill all the Jewish people. And in their charter, it says at the end of days, there will be a Jew hiding behind a rock or a tree, and go find him. This is what we're dealing with. People who are offered a free, independent Palestinian state in 1947 and over again. No, thank you. We don't want a two-state solution. We want a one-state solution. We want a state of annihilation for the Jewish people. We need peace, but peace cannot come when the world coddles terrorists and asks Israel to live side by side with people committed to destroy her. Can we change? Can we make a difference? Absolutely. We've just established that here in Palm Beach County. We can absolutely make a difference. Before I conclude, let me just share with you about the Torah reading. It's fascinating. We started out with Adam and Eve. They only had themselves to think about. There wasn't a whole world community, right? And they, of course, they got into trouble because they were raising Cain. They got into a lot of trouble. Then we get to Noah. Noah taught us that we're all in the same boat. If there's evil one place and we are silent, it spreads and it'll destroy the whole world. We are all in the same boat. It's kind of like the guy, he's drilling a hole in a boat. And the other people say, what are you, crazy? What are you doing? He says, well, don't worry, I'm only drilling it on my side of the boat. Okay? The coronavirus taught us that the problems of the world and their solutions are global. Then we get to Abram. What happens with Abram? Well, God said to Noah, I'm going to destroy the earth. Noah said, oh, yeah, that's cool. I have no issues with it. Just tell me how to save myself. Okay, build an ark and you can protect yourself and a couple of the animals, but the rest of them, they're out of here. He didn't argue. He didn't object. That's why he wasn't qualified to be the first Jewish person. You have to be able to challenge authority, no matter who it is, because of justice and fairness. Abram, he says to Abram, okay, Abram, I'm going to get rid of Sodom and Gomorrah. These are evil, evil cities. By the way, Abram wasn't, he wasn't Jewish. I mean, he wasn't kosher, rather. His name was Abram. He changed it to Abraham. He intentionally put Ham into his name. Noah had a son named Ham. They weren't kosher either. Actually, in the Torah, Abram does serve meat and cheese. So we know it's not just a joke. He wasn't kosher. That's something that people dreamed up a long time ago. Okay. But Abraham was qualified to be the first Jew because he dared to challenge authority in order to save people and to save the innocent. And so we consider him to be the father, not just of the Jewish people, but of Christians, of Muslims. And the best thing we can do for our parents is not to have sibling rivalry, but sibling revelry, in which all the children, all the people work together for a greater cause. And so I'm inspired by what happened here. I'm inspired by the Torah reading. I'm inspired by Abram, who is told, Lech lecha me'artzecha u'memoladecha. Go forth from your native land, go forth from your comfort zone, and be a blessing. My friends, we are all comfortable relatively in the United States. We kind of like the way things are. This passage is saying, don't be so complacent. If there's suffering going on, do something about it. Save an animal. Help build a shelter. Adopt an animal. Help people. If we all get involved, we all help each other, we can create a better world. Lech lecha me'artzecha. We do have some Hebrew speakers here. You can, you know. Lech lecha is translated go forth, but lecha means to you. It actually means go within yourself. And when you go within yourself, you discover there's a spark, a sacred, life-giving force in you, and it's also in every one of us, and it's also in every living thing. We're all interconnected. We're all related. That was the genius of Abram, to recognize there's one uniting force. Lech lecha me'artzecha. Go forth inside yourself, and paradoxically, that will cause you to love others when you see that the same spark in you is in them. Lech lecha me'artzecha, and follow your promised land out of your comfort zone, even though you don't know exactly where you're going to end up, so that you too and all of us can be a blessing. And through us, this world will be